Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you to our presentation on living options for seniors. I'm Kelly McKay. I'm the program coordinator for Andover Elder Services. I wanted to let you all know that this is a Zoom webinar. So if you are an attendee, your microphone is off and your video is off. So don't worry, we can't see you, we can't hear you. If you have any questions along the way, we invite you to utilize your chat function and we will go to those questions at the end of the presentation. So we're very excited about this presentation and we have a few more webinars coming up this month. So be on a lookout for our emails to see all the exciting programs we have. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our Andover mentors. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Kaplan.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Kaplan and I'm a retired senior and a member of the Andover Council on Aging and of the Senior Mentors of Andover as well. I'm pleased to welcome you to tonight's program, Senior Living Options. It is the third program in a series we've called the Senior Living Series, and it's designed to explore issues and opportunities and just general experiences for seniors. The first one we did was back in November, and it was, Am I Ready for Retiring? The second was one called Frauds and Scams, which we did in December in time for the holidays. And we're moving on now. This is the third, of course, Senior Living Options. And the fourth will be shared in March. And it's going to be called Senior Financial Challenges. In each case, we've either had panel members, as we're doing tonight, or the mentors themselves doing the program, or some combination. We're looking forward to your participation. And if you'd like, you can actually request to see the other programs. We can make them available to you. At the end of this program, you'll see an email address for the mentors. And if you use that, we can get to you with a link to get to the programs that have already been done. Well, I'd also very much like to welcome our panelists. We have 4 of them tonight. Thank you for your participation and your sharing. And I'll introduce all 4, and then they'll get going with their presentation and the part of the program. The concept is we're going to do the first presenter, who is Judy Trerotola, who is the Director of Marketing at Artis Senior Living of Reading. And Judy's going to speak about overall options for senior living. The second will be Margaret O'Connor. Margaret is a commissioner of the Andover Housing Authority, and she'll be able to speak to the different kinds of things that are available for different lower income opportunities and so on. The third will be Jane Burns, who is the Director of Elder Services in Andover. And many of you who have been to the Senior Center have met Jane. Last, of course, and not least, is Nandi Munson. Nandi is the Community Outreach Coordinator for the Elder Services of the Merrimack Valley. And at this point, I'll turn the program over to one of my fellow mentors, Don Schroeder.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, let me just introduce you to the mentors. You've seen the 3 faces, but the 3 gentlemen joining us tonight, myself, Don Schroeder, I was in banking since the early 70s. I worked with Arlington Trust Company till I retired, worked with several other regional and large banks. So I retired from Enterprise Bank. And during that time, I served with many local boards and nonprofit organizations. One of the ones I had the most fun with was serving on the Andover Finance Committee, which I chaired for several years. Also, one of the mentors is Roland Jacobson. Roland is a certified financial planner and retired investment counselor. He's worked in the investment business since 1970s, including stints with Fidelity Investments and Cox Capital Management. As a consultant, Roland specialized in 401k retirement offerings, endowment fund management for nonprofit organizations and hospitals, universities, and private foundations. As you can tell, Roland's our money man. Jeff is head of entertainment for the mentors. Jeff worked as an educator, a counselor, and a mentor. At Sea and Land Corporation, he was director of global systems implementation and trainings and with NCR, he was involved in senior management project services. Since retiring, he has been active in many community service organizations and currently serves on the Andover Council on Aging. So that's who the mentors are. I also would like to let you know if you have any questions during the presentation, you can select the chat button and type in any questions and we'll relay them to the speakers. And we also will have a session at the end of this. So you will recall we did a questionnaire when you registered, and here's just some of the information from that questionnaire. First was about staying in your home for the rest of your life. You can see most people said no, but if you combine the unsure, I think you probably have that as the biggest along with the yes. I think it just indicates people would like to stay in their homes as long as they can. Second question, do you plan to downsize? Here, everybody was kind of all over. You can see it was a lot of mixed thoughts, haven't really made up their minds. And why was mostly we're in cost, ability to maintain, and then health. Would you be able to live on your own? So those were those two questions. We then had why would you move? The biggest one was health and your care needs. Second was cost of existing residency. And then you looking for an alternative. None of the registrants had looked at alternative living community, and which was just across the board then. What's most important, family and community. You know, family was number one, community was joined in some of those, but you can see what causes people to make those decisions. Okay, with that, I'll turn it over to Judy. Judy?
Thank you so much. I just want to reiterate, I am currently the Director of Marketing for Artis Senior Living of Reading. It's exclusively a memory care community, licensed for assisted living, but it's a specialized memory care community. But over the last 35 years, I've worked in various aspects of senior living development, the whole range of options, as well as doing planning and management for community-based services for seniors. I've been on the Andover Council on Aging on and off for about 13 years, a 10-year stint, and now I'm into my third year. And I've been an Andover resident for 31 years. So I'm going to get started. I actually was going to begin with a slide that asked those questions again, and I'll just reiterate them for anyone who hasn't had an opportunity to see them and think about them. So basically, I wanted to begin with questions to ask yourself as you contemplate your housing needs in the future. Do you hope to remain in your own home for the rest of your life? Does your 5-year plan include downsizing and moving to a senior living or condominium community? Will your residential plan depend on your health and personal circumstances over time? Is it more important for you to remain in Andover or to be closer to family wherever they may be? And whatever path you're on, it's important to put a plan in place, even if it's theoretical. You don't want to wait for a crisis, and you'll have more options and control over the outcome if you do at least think through what your next steps might be. If you could go to the next slide, please. So what are the factors influencing the decision of staying or going, and where? And so among those that you might consider is whether you're looking for a lifestyle-driven versus a need-driven option. And I'll get into that in a little while when we're talking about the specific options. What your financial situation is. There's a wide variation in the cost of various senior living options. Health considerations, many people might wait for an inability to stay in their current residence. Are you interested in renting versus owning? And we'll go through both of those options, but that is a big factor for people who are homeowners their whole lives and maybe want less of a commitment for the next go around. For some people, the decision is influenced by wanting to give up home maintenance responsibilities, both interior and exterior. With that, a willingness to accept the restrictions that come with being in a more congregate environment. And then finally, is there a desire to reside only with older adults versus in a multi-age population, as in the neighborhoods where you might currently live? So these are all things you can be thinking about as you answer those questions again for yourself. So what are the options? I'm certainly not going to cover all of them. And as a matter of fact, my portion of this program will really be focusing on market rate housing options. Other speakers later in the program will be presenting affordable and subsidized options that may be available. So within those market rate options, some are lifestyle driven and some are need driven. And lifestyle driven is basically having the opportunity to make this choice while you still have a lot of choices available. Need driven options at the bottom of the list, assisted living and memory care, are they're less options, and they're chosen based on needs that you have as opposed to a choice for a lifestyle, essentially. So we're going to begin with, and I'll do a deep dive into each of these in a moment, but active adult or 55 plus communities is one option, one category of senior living. Sometimes they're called 62 and over communities, but that's all basically one category. Then we'll be talking about continuing care retirement communities, or CCRCs, then independent rental options. And independent rental is often packaged with assisted living and memory care, but I'm going to be focusing on the independent rental options. Next slide, please. So with respect to active adult or 55 plus communities, there are some common features. Generally, they are structured as condominiums. The local range is about $400,000 to about $750,000. In some areas, they're even higher, but it's a real estate purchase, just like any other purchase. It just happens to be in a community that is specialized for this population. In addition to the upfront purchase price, there is almost always a homeowners association or HOA fee. Generally, they range from, in our area, about $300 to $500 a month. That really varies based on the amenities that the campus has. The fancier the place, you know, the golf course communities, those that have a lot more built-in amenities, some have a restaurant on the campus, may charge a higher HOA fee, but this is generally a pretty good ballpark for the ones in our area. Generally speaking, one family member needs to be at least 55 years old or above. The amenities can vary widely. In our area, some of them have golf courses. They always have a clubhouse. They generally have a pool, but there are some places in particular in Plymouth, there's a huge campus with walking trails, a golf course. I believe there's a restaurant on the campus as well. So the amenities really vary from place to place. I've added a few services, and this is really in comparison to the settings that I'll be talking about in a moment. But yes, there is a clubhouse, but generally speaking, nothing like built-in meals or communal dining or anything like that. If people want to have housekeeping, they would arrange that from the outside community. So it really is much more of a real estate transaction. Some local options is not much in Andover, but Riverside Woods in Andover, which is entering, I think its third phase is under construction. They call themselves a 62 and over community, but it's basically the same thing, an active adult community. In North Andover, there are at least a couple of options that I identified. One is called Old Salem Village, another Riverbend Crossing. Methuen is like the mother lode of active adult communities. I've listed 4 here. There are a few others that I came across, but the Woods at Merrimack, the Regency at Methuen, Stone Castle Estates, the Preserve at Emerald Pines. And I know a number of families from Andover that did end up moving to active adult communities in Methuen. So the next category, CCRCs, or continuing care retirement communities, I wanted to give you a little bit of history on this. CCRCs used to be called life care communities, and they go back 100, 120 years. The original ones were church-owned communities, and in particular, the Quakers had the first life care community in the Philadelphia area. And the idea was that they would say to people, give us whatever savings you have and we will take care of you for life. And that was the original model, and hence the term life care. What they found over time, over decades and decades, is that as people started living longer, and in particular because they were so well taken care of in the life care community, they started, the costs were outstripping, what they paid was outstripping the costs of caring for them for life. And so the evolution over time was the evolution of the continuing care retirement community. Most of them are based on actuarial projections. So there's real math that goes into now determining what the initial investment will be based on morbidity and mortality assumptions for how long people will live, what their health is going to be like. So just kind of fun facts about the evolution of CCRCs. They are, generally speaking, a campus, a single campus with a variety of buildings on that campus. And so, and the various settings include independent villas / townhomes. So either attached to each other or freestanding for those who are more independent. Then the independent living options continue with large buildings that have independent living apartments. Often there's a separate building for assisted living, or that large apartment or that large complex with independent living will have a distinct section for assisted living. People who are somewhat more frail, who need more help, need personal care on a regular basis. So, and most often life care or CCRCs will have a nursing facility on campus as well in a separate building. And that nursing facility may have a memory care section, or sometimes the memory care is in the assisted living. The financial structure varies, but there is always an upfront entrance fee, it's called. That's the initial investment. And the range of pricing varies widely from about $350,000 in Massachusetts to well over $1 million. And again, that depends on the level of amenities in that community, where it's located, etc. Generally, entrance fees are considered to be a prepayment for future care, you know, the actuarial projections that I mentioned. And also they are, a portion is dedicated to facility operating costs. Entrance fees also vary based on refundability. Some communities, the early continuing care retirement communities, basically said you would pay this amount and it's amortized over 5 years, and should you pass away or decide to leave after 5 years, you wouldn't get back any of it. Most communities, because of competition, et cetera, are more consumer oriented. And now there's an option for, you could opt for as little as a 10% refund or a 90% refund, and that refundability will affect the size of that upfront entrance fee. And then there's always a monthly fee, which sometimes surprises people because they're making that initial large investment. And the other thing about the entrance fee is you don't actually own your unit. It's similar to a cooperative in that you own a share, if you will, in the overall community. The monthly fees range from $2,000 a month up to $6,000 a month. Some CCRCs are even more expensive than that. The monthly fee is also going to be based on unit size. The range might be 1 bedroom up to 2 bedrooms with a den. And it's also going to vary based on amenities and the contract. But the monthly fees also include the service package that people will get. And those services vary depending upon which setting within the CCRC you happen to be in. And generally, all service packages include meals in a community dining area, housekeeping, emergency assistance, personal care help, that's mostly in the assisted living settings, nursing and healthcare services in the nursing home, and of course, a range of recreational and social activities, 24-hour security, and building and grounds maintenance. But for example, going back to personal care, some communities will allow you to have personal care assistance while you're still in the independent side, either in your villa or in your apartment. Some other CCRCs require that you live in the assisted living section to get help with bathing, dressing, transferring, etc. There really aren't that many CCRC options in our area, but 2 local examples are Edgewood Retirement Community, which many of you may be familiar with, and that's in North Andover. Just a little picture of that community. And then Brooksby Village in Peabody, which is a huge campus. And but both of these communities have all the settings that we talked about. And then there are independent rental options. And again, one of the factors in determining what setting you might be interested in, maybe you want to rent rather than, again, making that upfront investment, which is similar to a purchase, or being in an active adult community, which involves a real estate purchase. So independent rental options in our area are, for the most part of multi-component buildings. And those buildings include independent living as well in its rental, as well as assisted living, and generally speaking, a memory care section as well. So there may be a whole floor or half of the building that's dedicated to independent living, and then another part of the building that's dedicated to assisted living, and then there may be a distinct part, 20 to 30 units of memory care. The range in independent living in the independent side generally is 1 or 2 bedroom unit options. And the private market rate, I think on average in our area, is about $4,000 a month, but that's going to vary widely as well. The services similar to those in a CCRC are going to include 1 to 3 meals a day. Generally, if you're in independent living, you may opt for a less costly, maybe 10 meals a week, or but on the assisted living side, you would always get 3 meals a day in the communal dining room. And again, housekeeping, emergency help, recreational and social activities, all the things that we mentioned. And again, in independent living, you might be able to get some personal care assistance at an additional charge rather than needing to go to the assisted side. Next slide. There are some local examples of these independent rental options that are part of the multi-component, the multi-setting buildings. One locally is Atria Marlin Place that has independent apartments on its main side, and then also some larger independent apartments across the way. Stonehill at Andover has all 3 components that I talked about. The Woods at Merrimack is in Methuen, Brightview in North Andover. And then there's a community in Lawrence, the Berkeley Retirement Home, which is more of a rest home model. And I know Nandi is going to be talking about that in a little while. And there was one other model that I found in Groveland, which is, not right around the corner, but pretty close, Nichols Village. And this, among the rental options that I found, was the only one that was standalone independent living, as opposed to also having assisted living and memory care in the same building. And what's unique about that community is they have in-house office space for a local VNA and home health agency. So even though there isn't assisted living in the same building, you can still age in place because those services are easily accessible. Next slide, please. So each of these options obviously has its up and down sides. I'm going to start with the downsides. Cost is one. A lot of people feel like, oh, I'm going to give up my single family home. I don't need the 4 or 3 bedrooms. Downsizing may not save you money though. You know, you may end up with less space, but you know, these are the market rate options are not inexpensive. They're worth what they charge, but you're not necessarily going to save money. The lack of age diversity, you know, a lot of people would find that that's not to their tastes, not to have families and children nearby. With respect to the active adult communities and the CCRC, younger family members may not be able to take advantage of that real estate investment, either to come and stay with you at the active adult community or to be able to benefit from appreciation on that entrance fee, that large entrance fee for CCRC. Some settings, as we talked about, like active adult communities, don't offer services when needed. So the onus would be on the owner to identify care assistance when needed through outside agencies. And then again, the loss of independent homeowner decisions, you know, not being able to paint your villa the color that you want to, or maintain a garden in the way that you may want to. And then finally, but the plus side, the upside is, and some of these are the corollaries to the downsides, but low or no maintenance. If you're in a building, an apartment style building, obviously you're not going to have any maintenance on the interior. And if you're in a villa style, you may not have to worry about, again, maintaining the exterior, and that's attractive for a lot of people. Opportunities to make friends with other retirees with whom you may have things in common. You know, a lot of people find that their friends have moved away to be closer to family, have made this decision. And so it's nice to go to a place where you may be able to find others with whom you have things in common. A quiet, mostly kid-free environment. Again, that could be a downside or an upside. Attractive amenities. A lot of these communities are relatively new and are very consumer oriented and quite competitive. And so they're all trying to offer what the others do. Services to make life easier. You know, you can't get around the fact that not having to do housekeeping and make your meals can be attractive. Leaving the worries home. And this is something for those who may be snowbirds, want to be able to leave and not have to worry about the snowstorms and shoveling and wear and tear on their home. Some people believe that staying home, though, is the least costly option. If your mortgage is paid off, it's not costing you anything to live, a lot of people believe. But sometimes staying in your own home has a lot of hidden costs. And when you compare the two, people don't realize what it actually costs them to remain in their homes. And this is something based on all the years that I've worked in this industry. Many people really do wish they had made the decision earlier. So there are lots of good reasons to stay put, to keep your single family home, but those that make the transition have often said this. They wish that they could get back the 5 or 10 years that they were holding fast to their single family home when they could have enjoyed it a lot sooner. So a lot to think about. Thanks for listening. And at the end, you can feel free to reach out through the Gmail for the mentors. Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you to the mentors for putting this program together. I appreciate it. And I welcome the opportunity to speak with all the Andover residents. I'm Jane Burns. I'm the Director of Elder Services. I've been in the position for over a year now, and I will say, wow, what a year we've had. It's been really wonderful to come to the Andover community and be able to work with a great team and a great group of seniors and seeing us through the pandemic and COVID-19. So what I'm going to talk about this evening is about Andover Elder Services and how we support folks aging in place and aging in their home. And that would be whether you chose to stay in your home in Andover, downsize, or go into an independent living community. We're here in Andover and we're here to support seniors. That's what we do. We support seniors in really two different fashions. We have the senior center, and then we have programs and services and support. So the first aspect is the senior center, or as we are delighted to be able to say, the Rob Center, which will be opening in just a couple of months. We're very, very excited. We've spent over a year now in temporary locations, and we're grateful to our hosts, but it's time to get back to our center and the Rob Center. And the Rob Center will be the hub for Andover seniors. This is where the community can come to engage, socialize, take a class and interact, meet up with old friends, meet some new friends. In the Rob Center, we will have some wonderful lifelong learning programs, much like we're having this evening. A great deal of cultural programs, whether it be art, music, dance. We really want to involve the diversity of Andover in the community center. We have nutrition and socialization. Frank will be coming back with us to the Rob Center. If you haven't joined us for lunch or one of Frank's dinner, I would encourage you to do so. We'll have an expanded kitchen where we're able to expand our offering. We have fitness and wellness, dedicated space. I'm happy to let you know that we received a grant for over $48,000 from the Massachusetts Office of Disability to outfit a fitness room. This will have state-of-the-art fitness and equipment, all designed and all accessible. We're working with Merrimack College on bringing on a personal trainer and a fellowship student to help us guide that fitness room. Technology literacy. One thing we learned very much during the past 10 months was that we need to get our seniors on Zoom, and we need to get them connected and learning technology. And we're rolling out a program at the end of this month to do just that, which will lead us to our virtual senior center. We will always have a component of the Rob Center that will be in person, but a component that will be virtual. The other great aspect of the Rob Center is a program that we've had for a number of years, and that's called Senior Connections. And as Judy talked about memory care units and programs for folks with memory loss, Senior Connections is a day program. It's a social day program for folks that are living with a memory loss or have other challenges that requires them to be in a more structured, supervised program. It's a way of providing respite care for the caregiver. So if you do choose to remain in Andover in your home, but you're caring for a loved one that during the day you feel they need more structure and a more supportive environment, that's what the Senior Connections program is about. And that will also be located at the Rob Center. The Rob Center is also the hub for volunteerism. Really a great way to come to the center is to volunteer. Our mentors this evening who put these great programs together are volunteers. Much of the support that takes place at the Robb Center is through volunteerism, and we deploy those volunteers throughout the community. Okay. So the other side and the other component of what we do is services and support. We have on staff 2 licensed social workers, and those social workers are there to support the community as well as our other staff members. And one of the key components of that services and support is the Meals on Wheels program. Meals on Wheels is more than just a hot lunch. Meals on Wheels is a great service. Not only do we provide a nutritious, well-balanced hot lunch, but it's also a social connection to the community, where the Meals on Wheels drivers deliver those meals on a daily basis. And we use this program as a way of checking in on our seniors, as to making sure that everything is okay. If the driver notices maybe a change, they'll report that to the social worker, or if someone doesn't answer their door, that gets reported back and we follow up. And it's really a great program for folks that want to move away from cooking meals, may find it challenging to cook a meal, and also want that security of having someone checking in on them on a daily basis. We also provide transportation. We have a couple of vehicles. We provide grocery trips. And that's not us grocery shopping for you. That's us taking you to the grocery store. It's always good when you can get out safely, to get out of the house and get out there and engage with folks. And so we'll pick you up if you're at that point where you're thinking, maybe I should stop driving. We're here to support you in that. I do know from experience, giving up driving is one of the most difficult things that you can do as a senior. It can be very frightening, and that feeling of loss of independence. And we are here to work with you and to help you feel that you're not losing your independence, and helping you see that there are other opportunities for safe transportation. Townie trips are individual trips around town that we'll support you with, whether you want to go visit a friend, meet a church group, or whatever. That would be townie trips. And then, of course, our medical transportation program, which is a volunteer program. But again, we will get you to your medical appointment. Doesn't have to be in Andover. We'll go outside of the Andover community. We even go into Boston to some of our big hospitals. As I mentioned, we have 2 social workers on staff. Those social workers are there to support you with referral and information through case management and SNAP benefits to help you if you're dealing with a financial struggle, and also through support groups. We run a Parkinson's support group, a caregiver support group, and I'm looking forward when we get back into the Robb Center of being able to start a memory cafe group. We also have property tax support. Many folks in the community participate in the SCRIPT program, which is the Senior Citizen Real Estate Property Tax Program, where you would receive an abatement on your taxes for volunteer work that you do for the town. And for those that are unable to participate in SCRIPT, but may need some assistance with their taxes, we also have the Elderly and Disabled Tax Relief Program, which you can apply to, and we will work with you and try to support you in your taxes. Okay. So that's a rundown of our services, the options if you do choose to remain in your home or if you downsize within the Andover community. I would encourage folks to reach out to us. I love to talk to seniors. Give me a call, give the division a call, check out some of the wonderful things that we've got going on. Kelly does a great job with programming, and we really strive to have something for everybody. So thank you all very much.
Good evening. This is Margaret O'Connor, and I'm going to talk to you about low-income housing. I'm on the Andover Housing Authority. Could we have the next slide? Right now, I'm on the Andover Housing Authority and my own board of trustees for the condo, and I do real estate in Andover. I had been a school committee member, a special education administrator, and actually have been chair of the Andover Council on Aging. Next slide, please. Because of my background coming out of education, I really like to stress that I say things 3 times. So if I'm repetitive, bear with me. Okay, so here we're talking about the Andover Housing Authority. Its purpose is to oversee and manage housing units and Section 8s and offer low-income assistance for families, seniors, and disabled people. Our audience tonight is seniors, so I'm going to restrict my topic to seniors. So the next slide, please. An applicant for senior housing in Andover must be 62 years or older and meet income guidelines, okay? This is low income, and your income must be less than $30,000 a year. So this program may not be for everybody, but let me go up to the top where it says you must be 62 or older to apply. Please begin to think about your transition when you are 60 years old. There's a waiting list. In a few years back, I used to do a program at the senior center on downsizing and helping people move from their house or wherever they were to another lifestyle, whether it was assisted living or a condo or whatever. And the people at age 60 were able to do that emotionally and physically. And then I watched the people in my group who were in their 70s, and they were overwhelmed with downsizing. And then I watched the people in the 80s, and they just did not have the energy. So I'm really going to say to you, if you're thinking about making a change, no matter what kind of a change, do it sooner rather than later. But now let me say, if you're thinking of moving into low-income housing, get your application in before you have to make that decision, because there is about a 2-year waiting list for senior housing in Andover projects. We have 2 projects. We have the Stowe project and we have the Fry Court. Right now on the screen, they're showing you the potential offerings. Okay, so if you're disabled, if you've been displaced by your landlord, you know, there's a lot of evictions going on right now. If you had a fire, or if you were having problems in the family, you're homeless or you're a veteran, and this is the big one. If you live or work in Andover, you get a preference. So this is a list of preferences right here. So we do have a list. You can apply it at age 62. And these are certain things that get you moved up on the list. And I am glad that we're still able to have some local preference for people who live in Andover right now or who work for the town. On this slide, it shows the waiting time. And I just mentioned to you, it is about 3 years. We have 218 units. The units are located at Stowe Court, which will almost abut the new senior center. And I just loved watching when we had the senior center, or I'm gonna have to call it the Rob Center, before. People could walk across the field for lunch, and a bus could take you from the Fry Circle Center to lunch. The senior center, the Rob Center, is, I'm not saying an extension of public housing, but it's a great amenity for the community. How low is your rent? Your rent is based on 1/3 of your income. Now, this is marvelous because it includes your utilities. It includes your heat, your hot water, your electricity. So that is a great big thing. You would pay your own phone and you would pay your own TV, but 1/3 of income for a low income person is really a great benefit, and they don't have to worry about heat or electricity. Now, let's say when you did sell your home, you had some money. This was not a restriction. You might have a 401k, you might have some other things. Those assets are not limited. You can bring those, but if you have interest, let's say you had 3,000 or 300,000 in the bank, the interest on your wealth or assets would be considered part of your income. So interest on your assets is part of your income. So we have to keep you under the 30,000, but your rent is based on 1/3 of income. And there's no limit to the assets that you can have. Okay. Next slide. Okay. Develop your plan as soon as possible. I really can't emphasize enough that it's not the waiting list that's why you have to plan. It's you. You're aging, you're changing, your ability to cope with change. Changing is not just a physical thing, it's also an emotional thing. So please begin to plan whatever change you want to make, whether it's to low income or to affordable housing or to assisted living, independent living, whatever it is, begin your plan as soon as possible. Now, this screen here talks about the application process. There is a statewide application process. It's right on the internet. It's pretty simple, and it's called CHAMPS, and I want to advise you to get that application in as soon as possible. Now, people confuse low income and affordable housing. We have a lot of affordable units. We have a few affordable units on Dale Street in Ballard Vale. We have affordable units at Powder Mill Square. We're building affordable units. Right now, I'm losing the street, but right near the railroad station and where the cemetery is, it's a combination of Habitat for Humanity and the great place that does the affordable units is Andover Community Trust. The difference between public housing, the low income, and the affordable units are you, for the most part, buy in. You own your home. You might have to do some sweat equity to get it, but it's a wonderful program. But it's not the same as the public housing. So that's what I'm saying. In closing, let me say, time is of the essence. Apply as soon as you can. Don't put it off. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nandi. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator with Elder Services of Merrimack Valley and North Shore. I'm the last panelist before our Q&A. Hope you're all still with us. I do wish we could see your faces, but it's such a pleasure to be here with you. And I'm so thankful to the mentors for inviting me and the other panelists to talk about this topic, which is super important and such a good thing to think about in advance and plan for. Just to echo what Margaret was saying and Judy as well with some of the questions they're suggesting you think about now. It's funny with aging, with every other big thing in our lives we plan, right? A wedding or having a baby or a career or buying your first home or going on vacation, right? These are all things that we plan and we make lists and we really think about. But when it comes to aging and where we will live as we age, we tend to wait for it to happen. And from my experience working in this industry, it's not always the best thing to do is wait for it to happen. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator for Elder Services, Merrimack Valley and North Shore. As I said, I'm a licensed social worker and I've been in the field for the past 13 years. Elder Services of the Merrimack Valley and North Shore. I know we've got a little bit of a similar name to the Andover Elder Services, so I'll try my best to kind of demystify that. I love the senior centers. They're incredible assets to the communities that we all live and work in. For us as a nonprofit, we're a little bit different in that we cover a region, Merrimack Valley and North Shore, like our name says. And that's the 28 cities and towns, including Greater Lowell, Greater Lawrence, Greater Haverhill, and a handful of towns in the North Shore. We're a private nonprofit, so we've been around for almost 50 years. I always joke that as a nonprofit, we have nothing for sale. We're not selling anything. But what we do have is a lot of helpful programs, resources, and information to empower older adults to age the way they want to. And our mission is really to give people choices to age where they want as well, whether that be in their own private home, in elder housing, in an apartment, or giving them resources and helping them navigate some of the other options that are out there that we've heard about tonight. Elder Services of the Merrimack Valley North Shore, we're not actually in the housing business as a nonprofit, but what we do offer is home care services that we coordinate for older adults who live at home in the community, again, either in their own private home or with family or in an apartment, and for older adults who need some extra care and support to be able to stay independent at home. Much of the work that we do is supporting people as they age to have alternatives to nursing home placement. Most of the elders I've worked with over the past 13 years wish to avoid nursing home placement. People tend to want to stay in their own home or explore some other option. Nursing homes tend to be the last resort. There's something that our communities very much need, but many of the people that I talk with want to find out what else is available as people age and as our needs change. So as I mentioned, again, kind of our bread and butter as a nonprofit is coordinating services for people in their homes and really helping them with activities of daily living, which are things like bathing and dressing and grocery shopping and light housekeeping and meal preparation, things that as we age, sometimes we need assistance with. Some of the other popular programs that we help support in the community is Meals on Wheels. In addition to the Andover Senior Services, it's a program that we kind of share with all of our cities and towns. We have a SHINE program that helps with Medicare benefits counseling. That's a free service to the community. Our caregiver program works with those caring for a loved one, especially with Alzheimer's or dementia, whether it be a spouse or an adult child or a friend or neighbor. We have services and supports to help that person in that caregiving role. The couple of programs that we do have that are inside of housing, I will mention for tonight's purposes. We have a congregate housing program as well as supportive housing. And both of these models are inside of elder housing throughout the Merrimack Valley and North Shore area. Congregate housing is a little bit more of a group living situation where folks share some living space and typically have services coming in to help support their wish to stay in the community as opposed to have to go to a long-term care facility. Supportive housing similarly is an environment within housing. People have their own apartments within a senior building, but brought to that place is some support and services and connection through a resident service coordinator who's somebody on site to kind of help with the scaffolding of activities and programming for residents and case management as needs arise for residents who live in these buildings. So we've got congregate and supportive housing programs that are scattered throughout the area. So for folks who need that extra support, it's a great way to help them age in place. Some of the really popular questions that come up a lot for us as an agency are people calling and kind of asking, what are the differences between a nursing home and an assisted living and say a rest home? Nursing homes are long-term care. Sometimes you'll hear it called skilled nursing. It's licensed, nursing homes are licensed through the Department of Public Health, and they exist to provide 24-hour medical care assistance and monitoring. Nursing homes are really for folks who are at the later stages of the aging process. One thing I always like to mention is that nursing homes traditionally cost about $10,000 a month or $360 a day. Sometimes we'll get calls and questions about that. A lot of folks have the notion that, you know, they've worked all their lives, they've paid into the system. So at some point, if they should ever need a nursing home, sometimes people will think that's just kind of available and that's included in kind of paying into the system. Sometimes a phrase that we hear, which is actually not the case. Nursing homes, they're not free care pools. It is a fee for service business model that provides clinical care to people in the community. But I always like to mention that because sometimes it's a little bit of a misconception I found in the community. So assisted livings, we've heard about earlier tonight, but assisted livings are here in Massachusetts, essentially a housing option with services available to help elders who might need some support. It's not a medical model like a nursing home is, but assisted livings are really popular throughout the area. We definitely continue to see new ones open on a regular basis. You've probably seen some in here in Andover pop up recently, the past few years. The assisted livings, if you've ever been to them, they're often just very, very lovely facilities with really nice amenities. The cost of assisted livings, I know Judy's touched on this a little bit. I always like to mention it because it's another question that we get a lot as an agency. People will call the agency and say, I would like help getting into an assisted living. And sometimes there's a notion that that's also kind of a free service available to people who have kind of paid into the system, when in fact, assisted livings are private pay models. And the costs can range anywhere from $3,000 a month upwards to $10,000 a month, depending on the services that a person in an assisted living may need and opt in for. So I think that's just important to mention. Assisted livings here in Massachusetts as well are certified through the Executive Office Affairs, which is different than a nursing home, which is licensed through the Department of Public Health for the state. The one other option I always like to mention is rest homes. I don't know, I wish I could see heads to see any like nodding or shaking heads if anyone's ever heard that term, but rest homes are kind of like a really original housing model that many have existed for over 100 years here in the area. Rest homes originally opened in some of our Merrimack Valley cities and towns as places to care for aging mill workers and factory workers. So some of our rest homes in the area are in these beautiful stately homes that have been around for a really long time and have a lot of history and character and a lot of strong service to those communities. So a handful of the rest homes we have left are Hillside, which is in Amesbury, that's all women, Ivy Hill, which is in Haverhill, Lakeview, also in Haverhill. The Berkeley home is in Lawrence, which Judy mentioned, that's a lovely facility. The German home is in Lawrence. We have Halcyon in Methuen, that's all women. The Griffin home in Newburyport is a men's home. And the Brookhouse home is in Salem, and that's a home for women. The rest homes, I always kind of joke, are like the original assisted livings because they've been around for decades, decades, sometimes centuries, right? And rest homes are a model that's really designed for people who can't be home alone anymore. Maybe they just need that extra support and supervision, help with meal preparation, help with med management, but they're not for folks who need nursing home care. So it's kind of like an in-betweener stage for people who might need that like little bit of extra support, but they don't need a nursing home. The reason I like to bring them up is because the rest homes are a much more cost-effective option than the assisted livings. The rest homes are almost always subsidized by the state of Massachusetts. So the monthly costs are much significantly lower than assisted livings. So I think it's important to have people know that as an option. They're considered kind of a residential care home. So when people hear the word rest home, it almost sounds like it's a nursing home, right? Like you go and you just spend your day resting and you're in bed, and that's not what a rest home is. So I always find it really important to mention that as an option that people might not be aware of. The other couple things I wanted to mention from Elder Services of the Merrimack Valley and North Shore is we have a program called Options Counseling, which you can call and ask to speak with an options counselor anytime. And those folks are trained to help navigate all of the options in the elder care landscape, just as the name sounds. I always joke Massachusetts is a great place to age. We have so many programs and supports here for older adults, so many different resources and choices, but that kind of comes with the bad news side of that coin of it's overwhelming to figure out what's out there and what you might be looking for, where to start. So options counselors are available to help people, again, really help navigate the landscape of really robust and rich resources here that are available to people as we age here in Massachusetts. And the last thing I'd like to mention is one of our resources is called our Green Book, which is just a free resource guide that we put out in the community. We have hard copies that we distribute through senior centers, and it's also available on our website as a PDF. And I mention that because the Green Book contains lists of all of the elder housings in the entire area, all of the assisted livings, all of the rest homes, the nursing homes, supportive housing, congregate housing. All the resources that we're talking about tonight can be found in one place inside of our Green Book resource guide. So I always like to mention that as it's almost like the Yellow Pages was, but it's all resources that are for older adults and they're all local resources. So I think that's it from me, but thanks so much for listening to my part. Again, I'm Nandi and I'm from Elder Services of the Merrimack Valley and North Shore. We'll turn it over to the host.
All right, can I have the mic?
Your mic is on.
Super, thank you so much. All right, what you're looking at is the Andover Senior Mentors website, Gmail address. If you have questions for particular presenters, or if you have just general questions, please email us and we'll make sure that they're directed in the correct direction. If there are some of our previous programs that you'd like to see or want more information about, again, the same is the case. Andover Senior Mentors would be glad to help you find whatever information and or connection to people who may have it that we can provide. Don, do you want to talk about the questions that came up as we were going through the process?
In the chat room, we had a question, and somebody, if the panelists could give us some information about the I always have trouble with that word.
Ombudsman.
I can help with that one.
Talk a little about their roles. So
Sure. Can I jump in on that one?
Sure, go ahead, Nandi.
The Ombudsman program. So I want to just verify Christina, who asked that question. Christina, are you asking about the Ombudsman program that goes into long-term care facilities? I don't know if you can put in the chat if that's what you're asking about.
Maybe if you could just cover that general role and
Sure.
where you might find that person. And
Yep. So the Ombudsman program, okay, yep. So the Ombudsman program here in Massachusetts, there's a specific Ombudsman program that covers assisted livings. And the word Ombudsman is a medieval Swedish word for representative of the people. It is a mouthful and people get tripped up on it, but it means advocate. So here in Massachusetts, we have an assisted living ombudsman who's housed at the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. I don't have that number handy, but if you connect with the mentors, I can get it to them. That person as the ombudsman really exists to provide support to residents of assisted livings who might need help with advocating for their rights or resolving conflicts or finding information about the kind of care they can expect to receive in assisted living. For folks who are in nursing homes or rest homes, we have a separate ombudsman program that's known as the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. That program is more region-based. So we have that program here in the Merrimack Valley out of Elder Services of the Merrimack Valley and North Shore, so out of my agency. And the ombudsman role there is to, again, protect the rights of nursing home residents and rest home residents, to advocate on their behalf and to resolve any conflicts that may come up. So again, I can get those phone numbers to the mentors, Christine, or if anyone else would like that contact information, but that's kind of the gist of the ombudsman program.
Nandi, I pulled up the phone numbers while you were speaking. So the long-term care ombudsman, to find the one in your region, the number would be 1-800-243-4636. For the assisted living ombudsman, the number would be 617-727-7750.
Thank you, Jane. I had a question, and Nandi, you were talking about the options counseling. Somebody had asked me about particular companies, and there seems to be a lot of independent individuals out there that do it. Is there any type of certifications that people should be aware of?
That's a really good question. Yeah, we are seeing more and more kind of private pay services like that pop up. And some of those folks who do those roles, they might be like geriatric care managers or licensed social workers or masters in social work. But for our options counseling program, that's a free program that we provide. So I would just kind of suggest you might want to start with the free program through a nonprofit that's trusted and established, where you don't have to pay for that service. You could always choose to pay for that service through the private pay folks out there. But our options counselors are trained through the Executive Office of Elder Affairs, because the options counseling is actually a state program here in Massachusetts that our aging services access points, like my agency, provide.
Okay, another question's come in. Question is, I am looking for information about transitioning as I age with a housing choice voucher, and whether that can be used in any of the options that you have discussed.
I'm not familiar with that term. I'm not sure if any of the other panelists are. The housing choice voucher, not familiar. Is that different than a Section 8 voucher?
I was thinking it might be Margaret, if you have any familiarity with that.
I don't know anything about a housing choice voucher, but Andover does have a few Section 8 vouchers. But I never heard of a housing choice. But Section 8s, you get your rent subsidized. You have to find your own landlord that will accept your voucher, and the voucher will cover the difference between your ability to pay and the market rate in Andover. So the market rate in Andover is quite high compared to the market rate in another community. But Andover is very difficult. We do not have many landlords in Andover that are willing to accept a Section 8 voucher. It's difficult to find find a landlord in Andover. So very often the landlord is going to be in another community.
Would that be
Somebody
something?
has to accept a voucher. You know, if you have a 3 tenement, it's your call as the landlord whether you want to accept Section 8 voucher or not.
Would Merrimack Valley Elder Services be able to help someone looking for housing in that area, Andy?
That's a really good
Community Teamwork in Lowell is the one that usually helps people in this area get Section 8 vouchers. I don't mean to say that the Elder Services couldn't help, but I'm saying that the Community Teamwork in Lowell is the one that gives out the most.
Yeah, I would agree with Margaret. I think the community action councils like in Lowell, Community Teamwork Inc. are most helpful with that. And panelists can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding for Section 8 is that landlords actually legally cannot say no to a prospective tenant because of a Section 8 voucher. However, My understanding is that with the Section 8 vouchers, the housing authorities have very stringent requirements for the quality of the property and safety and kind of that type of kind of stringent requirement. So I think sometimes that is a deterrent for landlords. But my understanding is that legally a landlord cannot refuse a prospective tenant simply because they're applying with a Section 8 voucher.
Another question is, does Andover have to provide a certain percentage of Section 8 housing?
No, we do not. The answer is no.
Right. And I was on the Andover Community Trust. You know, we were always working to get affordable housing up to the 10% so that Section 40B of the zoning codes wouldn't force certain types of construction. So I don't know of any other restrictions.
No, but there's no connection between Section 8 vouchers and affordable housing.
Right.
We've done pretty well. We have 10% now, of at least the 10% of affordable in the community. So that's very good.
Don't have any other questions. Roland, do you? You have to unmute, Roland.
Sorry, I don't have any questions, but I want to thank the panelists for doing a great job.
Me as well. You just really done us proud with your concise information and your insights, and thank you so much for your time and energy.
Yeah, as a third mentor, I'll ditto everything said and appreciate everybody's time and input.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I just want to reiterate what Judy, Margaret, and Nandi said about pre-planning. It is absolutely the right thing to do, and you really do want to start planning ahead before waiting till a crisis to make that move.
Thank you all so much. I hope everyone has a wonderful night. And if you need anything, always reach out to us. We are here to help you. Thank you to the mentors for organizing this, and thank you to all the panelists that joined us.
It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank everyone.